Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, what I've been doing and what I'm going to be doing today is diving into breatharian leaders, social media influencers, public figures, celebrities, in order to highlight what is, in my opinion, the gaslighting, manipulation, and indoctrination tactics that they use to make sure that their followers become permanent members of breatharianism. Now, if you don't know what breatharianism is, it's a philosophy which promotes a lifestyle centered around fasting, in particular, dry fasting. In my opinion, based on my research, breatharians hold dry fasting to be of one of the highest levels of breatharianism. Their core belief system is that humans can survive off of what they call the pranic energy, the pranic life force, the universal life force, basically the energy all around us. And sure, there is energy all around us, wow, already. While there is energy all around us, can we harness it to photosynthesize or harvest macro and micronutrients or any of the things that nutritionists say humans need to survive? No, you have to be initiated into the lifestyle, but only once you are sure that it is the right path for you. There are at least 5 tragedies linked to this ideology, particularly Jasmuheen's 21-day process, where it consists of days and days without eating or drinking water. In those cases, the folks hurt by these practices were said to not be aware of themselves in the sense that they thought the journey was for them and they were actually wrong, what in my opinion is victim blaming. Usually the story that breatharians tell when recanting how they knew that this life was for them, they are usually called to do this by a higher power, either gods or multiple gods. Some say aliens or other spirits, light beings. There are 4 levels of breatharianism. The first level is to be aware of this energy. The second level of breatharianism is to begin experiencing more of this energy. 3 is to manifest the breatharian state and only occasionally have solid or liquid food in a stable 4-month state, meaning that you have to maintain that lifestyle for at least 4 months. The highest and the 4th level is to manifest the breatharian state and no longer have to have calorie intake, and again, stable 4-month state. You are not recognized as a true breatharian until you reach level 3. Breatharians insist that they don't promote fasting or any dietary changes. In my opinion, and from things they have said, written, and published on their own websites, this is an egregious lie. It's up there with big tobacco looking Congress in the eye and saying that nicotine was not an addictive chemical. If you look at their websites, one of the benefits that they claim people will get from following them or going to their retreats or being initiated, any of that stuff, is dietary change, including ideal weight, a better relationship with food, less hunger, more sleep. Now, in my opinion, these leaders have a vested interest in keeping up this narrative in order to kind of separate their flavor or brand of breatharianism from the other breatharian ideology. It's the same thing, which got a ton of scrutiny, criticism in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s when Jasmuheen and Wiley Brooks were the main breatharian public figures. Wiley Brooks is an interesting guy. I'm going to do a video about him as well. Very interesting. I'll just leave it there. Interesting website talking about a lot of different things. He was thought to be the founder or father of breatharianism, which in reality he really kind of just brought it into America, and it was the start of the westernization of breatharianism. The practice of fasting and anedia had been going on in other countries for centuries and centuries before him. So he was caught walking out of a store with chicken pot pie, other foods, and a bunch of snacks. And then eventually he kind of gives up and says, okay, you can only eat these foods because they're literally the color yellow. You can eat quarter pounders with cheese and McDonald's Coke because those are the only foods that are not radioactive. Yeah, so that's Wiley in a nutshell. It's hard to find his books online, although I want to read them because I feel like they're shut down for, in my opinion, what are very valid reasons to stop spreading certain information that's in certain books. Just my opinion. Jazz Muheen went on 60 Minutes Australia to prove that breatharianism was sustainable. It's not. But basically to prove that breatharianism is a diet that she was following and that can be followed. She wrote the 21-day process. She invented that. So she was in a hotel room being recorded by 60 Minutes and CCTV cameras for, around the clock, had somebody there with her observing her. She couldn't make it past the 4th day. The doctor had to stop the experiment because 60 Minutes Australia would have been legally culpable for negative health consequences that Jazz Muheen was very, very close to facing. Severely dehydrated, was at risk for damage to kidneys, and also had lost a ton of weight in those 4 days. So a lot of people took that to mean that she was eating. A lot of breatharian leaders have been caught eating. Something that stumps me is, why do people believe that they can do this? Humans are very interesting. I don't know, and that's why I'm kind of diving into this. I think that Wiley and Jazz Muheen, all of those scandals that happened, kind of desensitized the public to breatharian thought. And now you'll see some stories here and there about, the couple who claims they had a food-free pregnancy, or the couple who claims to have not eaten in a year, or in, Ray Moore's case, meet the breatharian who also did a TV experiment and couldn't go on with it, but had excuses as well, like Jazz Muheen did. You'll see coverage here and there, but my assessment is that this is not in the public eye anymore. And that's scary to me because in the age of social media, these leaders can reach a much wider audience. They can theoretically make more money pushing their stuff on social media than they could make in those days selling their books and other promotional materials via snail mail. When I came across this video that we are about to watch together, in parts because I cannot sit through the whole thing and I'm not going to make y'all sit through the whole thing either, I thought, wow, this is the scariest video I've seen from any of these leaders so far, because it checks so many of the boxes from the 2 theories that I'm going to be using to couch my argument in as to why breatharianism, in my opinion, is a cult. One theory is the bite model by Steven Hassan. The other is Robert J. Lifton's theory of ongoing thought reform program that he developed in his book Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism. And the video that we're going to watch is basically 2 hours of a leader lecturing his followers on how to keep up the breatharian lifestyle after they leave the retreat, after the initiation is over and they return home, and how to respond to people that express concerns over changes in their loved one's behavior. He encourages them to not explain in a way that furthers their concern. Essentially, how to live a double life, keep what they're doing a secret. If members were to entertain other people's questions and concerns, it is less likely that they will remain in the group. This video is meant to shut that down. It's called an integration lesson, and it is at the end of one of Ray Moore's retreats. So today we are talking about Ray Moore. Ray Moore is a public figure that has been practicing breatharianism for 9 years, according to his website. He has spoken at the Pranic World Festival for at least 5 years. Ray Moore was born in Israel. Following a normal Israeli life, he joined the military service when he was 18 for a 5-year service, followed by a long trip abroad that opened his eyes to the world of spiritual development. At the age of 31, Ray has decided to take a huge leap of faith by going through a 21-day fast pranic initiation that changed his life forever. Now, Ray is a spiritual breatharian guide that is committed to bringing the self-empowering and spiritual development knowledge to all that is in search for a higher understanding of our reality and our divine selves. Ray invented the 10-day group process breatharian initiation. Ray invented the 10-day group breatharian initiation process. I read that wrong, but you get the point. He is a level 3 breatharian, even though he admits to having full meals sometimes. Again, it's very interesting to me that it's clear that These people eat and they admit it, but people still think that this is a thing and still follow these leaders. He has 66.3 thousand subscribers on YouTube and 291 videos. Tell me again how it's not about fasting. He has his own website where he markets his online virtual trainings and retreats. Some are in person. And he's a decent public speaker from what I've seen so far. And he is, in my opinion, attractive, which makes him a, I don't know, a good prototype of a cult leader, I guess. This is all my own opinion, okay? I'll throw the bite model criteria up on the screen so y'all can read through it, but I am going to make a lot of references to it as we watch this video. But I will read off the mystical manipulation criteria. No, I won't. Actually, no, I won't. I'm just trying to get into it. This is take 4 of this video, y'all. I swear to God, it's take 4. Time for disclaimers. This video is very, very long. I don't want to take anything out of context at risk of being criticized. So I'm going to speed it up 1.25 times just so y'all know. Please, please, please bear with me. This video is so important to understanding the workings of this group, how the leaders keep people in the group, and also it's a great example of the manipulation tactics, the indoctrination tactics, and the other CULTY things that happen in this group and in this particular retreat. The video that we are about to watch together is also almost entirely about restricting eating and drinking. It also talks about fasting, alienation from social circles, friends, and family. If those things will be triggering to you, totally okay. Please don't watch this video. It's not worth jeopardizing your recovery or your mental health to watch this silliness. So I'll see you in the next video. Everything I say here is my own opinion. I am not stating anything as fact. When I do need to cite a source, it will be in the video notes below and I will indicate it. I'm analyzing this video from the perspective of somebody who has studied sociology and specifically the sociology of deviance, which includes the sociology of cults. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. The point of this video is not to pick on members of this group or people who are in this group and claim to be breatharians, including Ray. The point is to show how these leaders take advantage of people and, in my opinion, endanger their lives. What is scary to me about this group is that anybody could be sucked into it. Please do not do this. There is no way that you can be a breatharian no matter what you've been told, what you've heard, what you've seen in a documentary, what you've seen online, what you have heard from a leader, or what you've been told even by the medical professionals that breatharians cherry pick to prove that this lifestyle is actually a thing that humans can do. That has no scientific merit or value. Look at an article from Science Direct that analyzes actual claims of long fasting. I will put that in the video notes as well. Read that. You cannot do this. Keep yourself safe, please. Okay, now that I have said all that, please feel free to leave your thoughts and your commentary down below. I would love to see it at any point during this video. Keep them respectful. This is not a call to action or a call to bully anybody. If you do towards the members, Ray or me, you will be blocked and your comment will be deleted. That's a hard boundary. Oh my God. Lord Almighty. What are we about to get into?
No, that we can ask questions, or are you going to have like a monologue?
It's going to be a monologue and then we're going to ask questions.
Burn.
Questions, because I don't have a microphone on me, so you will also be heard. But I'll try to talk a little bit with like a thicker voice so everybody can. So we're going to have an integration lesson. The integration is about how we're going to live our breatharian life, how to explain it to different people. There's many questions that are going to be asked, and you're going to learn a lot more in about a week. So the first thing that we need to understand is that we are not alone. Meaning when we are here, we are together, but when we go out there, we might feel that we are alone, nobody understands us. And we need to embrace this because there's not many breatharians in the world right now. And we have to keep in contact with the people that we know from here. And in about 10 days, I'm going to organize we're going to have one Google Hangout together so we can ask questions. Before that, if you have any questions, if you have any feelings, anything that you want to say, we have a WhatsApp group. And in the WhatsApp group, you guys are going to see that you're going to support each other.
So notice how he's already setting up a dynamic of us versus them, insider versus outsider. What is within the group is good, what is with outside, I can't speak. what is outside of the group as bad. They have a WhatsApp, they have a supportive Facebook group where they can all kind of keep an eye on each other and see how each other, I messed that up again, and see how everybody is doing. Ray is not a part of those. I've looked into that and he's not, and it's kind of sus. There aren't many of us. We need to stick together.
Some people will be a little bit down, some people will feel a little bit neglected by themselves, They feel like they need the energy of the group, get confused. And it's a lot about mind games, and we have to be really conscious about these mind games. Meaning, wait a second, but I still feel weak, wait a second, am I still detoxing, and when is my energy going to come back completely, and all this breatharian is bullshit because my body is eating itself, and maybe I'm drinking, and maybe I lost some weight, maybe I gained some weight, and I don't really understand. And I'm telling you this over and over again because some of you are going to go through this. And it's normal. This is the way it usually works. It takes some time until we get used to it. And we have some doubts, just like you had doubts before you came to the 10-day process. And you said, wow, maybe I'm not going to do the dry fasting. I can't even imagine how I'm doing this dry fasting, And then you're here, and the dry fasting is finished, and you feel better. And the detox, the ultimate detox phase is finished. So the first thing is how to explain.
Let's think about why he would first thing out of the gate attack his followers' feelings of hunger and thirst. So the detox he's talking about is a detox from food. Food is toxins to breatharians. It's not toxic to them, but they think about food as toxins. They also say that everybody is addicted to food, which is very annoying to me. This is an example of loaded language, calling these things mind games. Loaded language uses thought-stopping cliches and thought-terminating techniques in order to end a discussion of something. These are phrases that people use to sum things up. They end the conversation, don't add value to a discussion or a debate, and you might have used them in your daily lives. It's a rhetorical strategy that, you don't necessarily use consciously, but at the end of the day, the rhetorical strategy has an effect on the conversation. So some examples are, that's just your opinion. It is what it is. Stop thinking too much. You're too negative. Here we go again. Now is not the time. Let's agree to disagree. And why does it matter? Are used to disarm somebody and intentionally end a discussion of something. To me, this sounds like the thought-terminating cliche, like lies of the devil. And I know that sounds very out there, but hear me out for a second. This is being used in a response to something that threatens the integrity of the individual or the group. If, after the retreat, followers feel extremely sick due to the detoxification process, they might start to wonder why they're doing this in the first place. Minimizing those feelings as, it's all good, it's lies of the devil, it's your body and your physiological responses that are involuntary and very normal are just mind games. The overall point I am making here is that he's nullifying any possible debate over the reason why they feel ill, hungry, tired, weak, etc. So again, think about the insider-outsider dichotomy. The teachings within the group are good. What is outside of the group and not our teachings are bad. One of them being that humans need nourishment from food and water. Whatever Ray tells them is the reason they should default to. So the issue is already settled. He goes at that straight out of the gate. He goes at that first. Loaded language is one of the criteria in Robert J. Lifton's model for determining whether or not there's an ongoing thought reform program on that puts people under undue influence, which is the technical term for brainwashing. If a group meets 6 out of 8 criteria, they are considered to be, I'm just going to say this, it's likely that there's an ongoing thought reform program happening within the group, and by extension, Lifton says that it's likely that the group exhibits characteristics of a destructive cult.
How to explain this to anyone? To new people we just met, to people who we already know, and sometimes people who we already know that we are changing in order to fit what they expect us to be, Just like with parents. Parents, they think you're still the same, but you're not the same. You've completely changed. So we need to see who is going to understand and who is not going to understand. Now, never go for the highest explanation, which is a breatharian doesn't need anything. Just say, I've reduced significantly. Just say, I'm not hungry right now. If somebody's offering, you can always just join the party. Take a bowl of soup and just go through a filter and drink with them. Enjoy it. Now, I highly recommend not to use a regular spoon, but to use a teaspoon from now on.
This is the first time that he mentions how to explain this to people. He's encouraging his followers and these retreat attendees to, one, lie by omission, and two, to keep the lifestyle secret and within the group, and also not reveal it to people who are unsafe. He's encouraging his followers, I'll just call these people attendees, I don't want to be callous. He's encouraging his attendees to consider certain people safe and certain people not safe. Outsiders are going to judge you. They are not safe and you should not trust them with this information. This is a really good example of the E and the bite model, which stands for emotional control. In my opinion, this looks like instilling fears such as fear of thinking independently, the outside world, enemies, losing one's salvation, leaving or being shunned by the group, and others' disapproval. Another one, phobia indoctrination, inculcating irrational fears about leaving the group or questioning the leader's authority. So no happiness or fulfillment is possible without the group. Terrible consequences if you leave. Incurable diseases, insanity, and on top of that, a fear of being rejected by friends and family. This says there's never a legitimate reason to leave. Those who leave are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed by family, counselor, or seduced by money, sex, and rock and roll. Can you tell that this is my fourth take and I've read these a lot? Because yeah, it is. Anyways, he says to never go for the highest explanation. Just say, just tell people, I don't need as much. I'm not hungry right now. And just to be clear, what he means by the highest explanation is what breatharians actually practice, allegedly, in my opinion, but from their own words, they practice anedia. Anedia is the Latin word for not eating. It refers to the abstinence or near abstinence from either food or from both food and fluid permanently or for an anonymously? Y'all, it's my fourth take. I can't try again. I'm just gonna have to keep trucking here. Anomalously long periods of time. So an anomaly is something that's like out of the ordinary or unexpected. Basically, it's just an anomaly. Like, this is weird and unexpected, basically, is what I'm trying to say. That is the highest explanation that he's referring to. So I just really want to be clear that, like, this is what they promote. Like, this is what they're doing.
Everything. Yeah, you will see that, like, when I take juice, instead of going and filling the whole cup, just go and fill a little bit, because you will see that what you really want is to get up, to walk, to take it. It's the ceremony that is around food that is interesting for you much more. So you can take just a little bit, and you don't have to gulp it, you can just drink it. Drink and understand. The taste buds are on the tongue. Enjoy it. If I have tahina, for example, I take a spoon and I put it in my mouth, and then I just work. And it can be there for like 10 minutes until it completely melts, and then I go, that tastes good, and then my tongue cleans up over here, and I still taste it and I enjoy it. So you begin with diluted juices, is what you're doing today, and after that in the juice itself, just enjoy it, sip it, every moment. And you will see that other people, for example, when they eat, they usually eat in 10-15 minutes and it's all gone. And I can tell you, like, for us, what your Christmas is, we have the Pesach, it's a big meal, everybody together, and in 10 minutes, like, everybody's hungry, they talk about it, and they smell, and you see some of them are really, really anxious. Like, when are we gonna eat? And my blood sugar, and all these things that you don't have to worry about anymore. And then, like, animals. And you will be able to observe this. And it's really good to be the observant of this. Say, 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes, it's all gone. Everybody's quiet, People have cooked for hours, they prepared for hours, and 10 minutes, it's all gone. And then you feel like, the mothers that are doing it, and they say, wow, it's all gone in 10 minutes, they feel satisfied, and then everybody goes like, oh, the holidays are so difficult. Oh, I'm so fat. Okay, when is dessert coming? Oh, I ate so much, but something sweet, yes. So you'll be able to observe this in the powder, and the noodle.
Okay, so in my opinion, this is an example of milieu control. Milieu is the French term for environment. parties are a milieu, where you live is a milieu. The earth, when these people leave the retreat, he wants there to be a place away from the triggers of the outside world so that they can continue resuming the lifestyle that they've been initiated into. Now, it's interesting. I just picked this up. He said that they are going to drink some diluted juices. I think they're about to break the dry fast. It ties into the B of the bite model, which involves dictating where, how, and with whom the member lives and associates or isolates. Also regulating diet, food and drink, hunger, and or fasting. Also restricting leisure, entertainment, vacation time. He's creating this us versus them dichotomy again by criticizing people who eat a lot at the holidays, which is, mostly everybody. People are entitled to enjoy food, right? Okay. He's villainizing the other such that his members don't want to associate with those people. That's a trigger in the outside world. So if you can control one's environment, you can simultaneously control the information that they're exposed to. And as I said, this is an example of behavioral control, specifically the age-old social tradition of eating together, of gathering. Very normal thing, not weird at all, not hurting anybody. But to him, it's a trigger. It might lead to people defecting. So he wants to maintain that dichotomy. We are on a higher spiritual plane than these folks who eat like animals, and you don't have to worry about blood sugar anymore, right? Excuse me, you're not a medical professional. You still have to worry about blood sugar. That's why these people feel tired all the time at these retreats, is because their blood sugar is literally negative infinity. There's a science to that, unlike breatharianism. So in my opinion, this shows that he wants the member to be isolated from criticism or impure ideas that could encourage them to critically think about what they're doing. This is why I'm really focusing on using protective language here. Generally speaking, let's just say generally speaking, okay? This is why cults use thought-stopping techniques within the group in order to avoid that particular situation. Let's talk a little bit more about the sacred science part of all of this. Sacred science is the idea that what the group teaches is absolute and cannot be questioned. Those who do question it are wholly impure, unscientific, absolute, not disciplined enough, etc., etc. In extreme cases, let's say the Church of Scientology, for example, you're putting yourself in real physical danger. I don't know what's happening here, but in less extreme cases, members are putting themselves at risk for criticism, other types of abuse. I'm not saying that that's happening. I'm just giving an explanation of what this could lead to, countless ways that it could be bad for them.
Exactly. Just like regular. And enjoy it. In the beginning, try to be with diluted soups as much as you can. And notice, please begin slowly. Slowly, it means that have one bowl of soup if it's salty, and see if you have any reactions and how you feel with it. Because some people have told us that if they go into salty too quickly, then they have these things on the skin, because the body needs to get used to it. It's not normal. Rashes. It's not normal for the body to have so much salt like we have in the Western world. Yeah, so you have reset your system, and now you have to teach it.
It's also not normal for humans to go without salt or sodium for that long and then haphazardly reintroduce it into their diet.
Slowly.
Can you also continue on just juices?
Yes, of course. Everything is a recommendation.
Yeah, so like from now on, like a year or so?
Sure.
You can just drink diluted juices?
Yeah, and after 2 months, you will feel strong enough. You can just, if you want less, go on less. No problem.
It doesn't even have to be diluted.
Yeah, regularly.
Yeah.
If you want to it's just that the body takes everything easier. What we begin is the easiest. Water. After that, water with a little bit of juice, which is also easy. After that, half. After that, juice. After that, smoothie. After that, soup. After that, food. And you will see that your digestive system doesn't work in the same way anymore. When you will begin eating again, if you choose to, then you will see that it's sort of like passing through you. and you will be like excited, like you're excited about finishing the 4-day fast, and whatever I'm telling you now that is a theory will become a reality, and then you'll say, wow, okay, now I understand what he was talking about.
Did you catch what he said there about this being a theory? I think that's kind of interesting. That's something that I didn't catch before. Notice that he's building a hierarchy of foods that are acceptable to unacceptable. He describes these as recommendations. In my opinion, this is a form of behavioral control because he's recommending to these attendees to eat this way. However, they also function as guidelines, which is something Ray has called them before. It's not necessarily just recommendations. He kind of stipulates that people take 2 months to just continue doing diluted juices after the retreat. Otherwise, they'll be triggered, especially if they chew food. Yeah, I guess that's going to trigger them into their past habits. And so in their mind, if they don't do it this way, in the way that Ray is stipulating, they will fail. They will fail the breatharian process. They've done this initiation essentially for nothing. And part of behavioral control, again, is imposing rigid rules and regulations. Although these are recommendations, these are very rigid. It's very specific. He says, do not do X, Y, or Z. In my mind and in my opinion, that's pretty rigid. When you're telling people that in 2 months, assess yourself, and then you can do diluted juices, and then you can do juices. Like if you choose, you can eat solid food again. When you're building a hierarchy like that, it's not just a recommendation, or it might be a recommendation, but what is in the hierarchy is stipulated, and that's rigid and set in stone. As far as I'm seeing, he doesn't leave any room for black and white. So that brings me to my point here. Another one of Robert J. Lifton's criteria is the demand for purity. So the demand for purity, think about it as dividing life into black and white, into pure and impure. Wiley Brooks saying that quarter pounders with cheese and Diet Coke from McDonald's are the only foods that people can eat is a, silly example of this, but it's an example nonetheless. Every other food is suspect. Every other food is too low vibes. It's not, what you should really derive nourishment from. And breatharianism goes so far as to say that food or obtaining nourishment from solid food and water, just period, the end, is impure. So it's very much like this food bad, this food good. Food bad, not food good. My way of doing it, good. Other people's way of doing it, bad. In addition, what science says about human physiology and what we need to live and survive, bad. Breatharianism, which has a more enlightened alternative idea of what humans need to be nourished, good. That's put on a pedestal. Everything else is low vibes. Don't do it. You're being indoctrinated by medical professionals that literally want you to live. That's that on that. I'll put a criteria counter up here because I think we hit milieu control, demand for purity, sacred signs, and loaded language. So we already hit 4 out of 8. We need 2 more. Is it becoming a little bit clearer now why I think this is the scariest video that I've seen from these leaders such far? No fifth take. It's checking all the boxes really fast, y'all. And this is a 1 hour, 52-minute video, and we're 40 minutes in. So I don't know, someone do math. We're almost halfway there and more than halfway through Lifton's criteria. It's just scary to me that he's imposing very strict dietary recommendations. It doesn't matter if they're recommendations. If you recommend things to people, in my opinion, you're culpable if they are hurt by following those recommendations. You have to be responsible with what you say and what you put literally on the World Wide Web, literally on YouTube. In my opinion, this is unethical and irresponsible because it doesn't seem that there's any consideration of a scenario in which somebody follows these recommendations to a T, unsupported, by the way, on their own, outside of the retreat. Yeah, they have this Facebook group and WhatsApp text and Zoom calls, whatever, but nonetheless, they are living in the outside world without a medical professional supervising them doing this. It's just reckless. It's reckless. He's either lying, ignorant, or negligent, or a combination of both. In my opinion, this recklessly endangers people, and they try to use protective language like these are just recommendations, yada yada, but there's no actual disclaimers made like, hey, if you have these chronic health conditions, you should not do this. If you're taking these medications, you should not do this. Keep yourself safe by doing this, this, and this. I do that in my job all the time, you know? Like, I give people things that we hope will help them keep themselves safe. However, still have to make the disclaimer, do not rely on this. It's not 100% precaution. There's no sense of responsibility. There's no sense of loyalty or gratitude or anything towards these people who pay $2,500 to be initiated into breatharianism by this man. It's just, in my opinion, a blatant disregard for human life. You don't know what these people are going through. You don't know what would happen to them if they follow these recommendations. It doesn't matter that you just call them recommendations. Y'all can't see this because I'm blurring her face because she's a private citizen, although she's on YouTube. She has her MacBook out and is taking notes. She's writing this down. She's taking notes. And I'm sure other people are too. People buy his books. People annotate his books, highlight things, underline things. You know, when you read a book and you want to learn something from that book, you take notes. People are taking notes. I know I'm talking in circles here, but my overarching point here is that you can call it whatever you want. A guideline, a recommendation, a stipulation, a rule, whatever. At the end of the day, you're still making an attempt to regulate people's diet, which is a form of behavioral control. There's that. It's just sad and reckless.
It just takes time. So you know your schedule, and that way you can continue until the end. Now, if you want to occasionally, after the first months, if you want to try different things, for example, a piece of chocolate, don't chew on it. Put it in your mouth, let it melt, enjoy it. You will see that once, the first time you chew on something, you will want double, 3 times, quadruple, 10 times more, because you will not enjoy the feeling. You will just want to chew again, you know? And you can do that with different things, like the things you put on bread, you know, you want to take a small bite from this, taste it, enjoy it. As long as it can become liquid, you don't really have to chew it. And this game, you only have to play for 2 months.
Okay, so you can't have chocolate in the second month?
Yeah, not in the first month. Yeah.
And Trina is also second?
Yeah, that's also okay.
So just open the whole new job.
Enjoy Trina, enjoy whatever you can put and melt and play with it. You can just sit with it and enjoy it. You know?
So we can have some ice cream for Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas, yeah, it's ice cream. That's what you do at Christmas.
Gluten-free, sugar-free.
No, not really. You know, whatever rules you had for before, check them again with yourself. If it feels better for you because you still have this belief that what you're eating needs to be really high frequency, for example, the fruits we brought here, they're organic fruits that we know that are directly from the farmer to the small company. If you have this belief, then maybe it's better for you to drink organic fruits. But if you don't have this belief and you want to let go of more and more beliefs, start letting go. Your life will be simpler. You won't judge yourself too much.
If you don't have a slow juicer.
If you don't have a slow juicer, I would recommend buying a juicing machine. Second hand is good. Shakib bought this one for €100. That's not too bad. About the water you're going to drink, it is highly recommended to move to distilled water. And if not, filtered water or whatever it is that you buy in stores that are fountain water, you know.
Is it not sufficient to drink just juices?
Yeah, you can drink just juices because you will see that you don't like water that much anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, water becomes really boring because it has no taste and you're getting all the liquids you need because you don't need that much liquids anyway.
Fair enough.
Most of the liquids you used to drink was to help you guys wash the body, the toxins and the food that you eat. And since you're only drinking now, then it's really not necessary. And also you can take this to the brushing teeth. You don't have to brush your teeth as much. Because like in the 4 days, you usually brush your teeth, not because there's food or anything, but because you want to feel the minty fresh feeling. But I can tell you that the other guy didn't wash his teeth for like 2-3 months, or he brushed them without the toothpaste itself.
First of all, oh My God, what is going on? I hate this. I hate this. We're about halfway through. I think this is a good point to just focus on what he said right here because I got notes. He says, play this game for at least 2 months. Chewing, don't chew food. Ice cream is fine. Check in with yourself about your rules. So the rules that you set out for yourself, he's saying to keep those rigid, set them in stone, don't change them for yourself, and basically just stick to this diet. He does say use a teaspoon instead of a tablespoon. I don't know why that makes a difference because you can eat just as much with a teaspoon, but whatever. And also distilled water. Another thing he says that I think is interesting is that if you have the belief that you need to eat a certain thing and you are ready to let go of more beliefs, then do that. It was almost like a subtle dig at what that one attendee asked him. In my opinion, and from what I'm seeing here, he makes little jabs at people. Oh, well, if you still have this belief that you need this, like, go for it. But if you're ready to let go of more beliefs, then get organic fruit or get distilled water or get a slow juicer. You can do X, Y, and Z thing if you're really committed to the process. If you know that this is for you. If you still believe that you need those things, you're probably not either cut out for this or ready. And for somebody who is in a particular type of spot in their life such that they feel they need acceptance from a group like this, that would hurt. There are already 4 levels of breatharianism, and for the first 2, you're not even recognized as a breatharian. So imagine needing to feel like you belong to a group at all, which is a basic human need. You're just automatically excluded from that until you prove yourself to a certain level. A level that you have to put yourself through, honestly, agony, misery. It's a scientific fact that you will feel ill and feel sick. You will feel weak and tired. You will have less memory and have less zest for life if you eat like this. You just will. You have to put yourself through all of that in order to be accepted by this group. Otherwise, you're seen as not committed enough. It was your fault because you weren't ready. You weren't self-aware enough. You didn't follow these prescribed dietary changes, like keeping up fasting for 2 months. Tell me again how it's not about fasting. You didn't follow the recommendations. Again, it doesn't matter if they're recommendations, because if they don't follow them, they will be shamed. On top of that, here's another criteria that they just met. Boom. Robert J. Lifton's Cult of Confession. This is the idea that none of your life is private. Nowhere in your life are you entitled to privacy. These Facebook group and the WhatsApp are honestly pretty horrifying. That's going to be another video in and of itself, but this is a place where members can confess to each other when they've, I'll just say, started eating food again. And they can reach out to other members for support and say, hey, I messed up. Have y'all gone through this? What can I do? Do you have recommendations? Etc. It looks like, in my opinion, it's a way for members to keep an eye on each other. Raise the admin. I don't know to what extent he's monitoring that group, because there are some pretty concerning posts on there. Let me just show y'all one. I received a message from Spirit that wait, hold on. I need water. Drink water. Water is good. You need water to live. Let's emphasize that. This member says, looking for support. I received a message from Spirit I didn't have to eat again. Then I found the breatharian resources that I have been working with since September. I'm curious about weight loss at this point through my process. I'm 5'6" and I weighed 137 pounds in mid-September. Since then, I have many days without food or water and many days with just liquids. Now I weigh 115 pounds. I was not prepared for such a dramatic body change so fast. Oh, God, that is, and it's really unhealthy. I just completed 4 days without food or water and felt great, but I reached the 115-pound mark, continually losing around 2 pounds a day, and I woke up the 4th day with kidney pain and weakness. So I drank water and later had some food. I fully intend to continue this journey. I have supportive family and I love the days without food or water and the closeness to source, meaning prana, source energy. They call this source feeding. Feeding off the source. I have also meditated and chanted my perfect weight and many affirmations. Any advice would be welcome. Manifesting your perfect weight by chanting. I mean, y'all are here for this. You know what I'm doing here. I'm going to go back to the bite model again, all right? So, the T in bite model, thought control. Teaching thought-stopping techniques which shut down reality testing by stopping negative thoughts and allowing only positive thoughts. Reality testing is comparing two worlds against each other. So think about it like the status quo, how things are now, versus a world in which somebody is a breatharian and practices this diet. Those are the realities that would be tested compared to each other. You get it. Denial, rationalization, justification, wishful thinking, chanting, meditating, praying, speaking in tongues, singing, or humming. This member is acting very committed to this lifestyle. Basically, y'all know you can't do this, right? That's kind of the point I'm trying to arrive at. But they have been taught weight change is possible if you chant it. Manifest it. There was a post where somebody said they, similarly had some type of pain or didn't feel good because they weren't eating or drinking, right? That's expected, normal. Tell me something I don't know. They were having chest pain, and one member replied to their post and said, maybe eat or drink something. And so they did. And then once they felt better, they posted like, I am ready to just dive right back into this lifestyle. After experiencing severe chest pain, I think it's kind of common knowledge that if you experience chest pain, prolonged chest pain, and unexplained chest pain, you should go to the doctor and probably the ER. But, they ate, felt better, and then just dove right back into the very thing that made them feel sick in the first place. That Facebook group and the WhatsApp are two places where members can not consciously I can't say maliciously, but they're still privy to what other members in the group are doing, and who knows what they do with that information at that point. I'm not sure. Who knows what Ray does with that information at that point? I don't know. He pops in every once in a while to self-advertise and self-promote, but other than that, he's absent from this group, and it kind of makes me wonder, is that for legal reasons? Let's say something bad happened to that member who was experiencing chest pain. Is he not popping in and out of this group because plausible deniability in that circumstance? I don't know. It's strange and it's interesting to me because he says that they will get his support there. That's something that they're paying for, but I'm not seeing that support happening. That's why he's doing this integration video in the first place. They have at least 2 integration lessons in this retreat, and that's kind of standard for breatharian retreats across the board, and also the Pranic World Festival, which I'm attending in 2022 in August, virtually, safely. Don't worry. But I'm very curious as to what happens behind closed doors in this group. But anywho, there's no support for these people, and these leaders claim that they will give their followers support after the retreat, but I don't see that happening. This is one of the reasons that this scares me, and in my opinion, this is one of the scariest and most dangerous cults of our time. It's being understudied, it's not covered very much. People think that it's a has-been group, it's not in the public eye. I really can't find commentary on this group, recent commentary at least, on this group that deals with the social media influencers, the public figures who are pushing these ideas, the actual people behind these retreats, behind the thoughts, not just coverage of this is a crazy idea, wow, look at this crazy example of New Age spirituality. It's a spectacle, sure, but it's irresponsible to only talk about it as a spectacle. The purpose of the videos I'm doing is to talk about it in a way that gives it credence, not to the ideas, but to the fact that it's a real group, it's operating, it's alive and well, and people are living this way. It really truly is only a matter of time before somebody gets hurt in some way. And it might not be reported as directly linked to this group. I'm not saying that it should be directly linked to any particular individual, but let's take the case of Lonnie Morris. Let's just read the case. Okay, so this is off of culteducation.com. It's published by the Cult Education Institute. Rick Allen Ross started this in the 90s, actually the year I was born. He did the lecture that introduced me to Robert J. Lifton's theories. Okay, this is graphic. So if you want to hop off now, that's totally fine. Please protect yourself because it is rough. It's rough. What happened to this woman is inexcusable and extremely, extremely sad, so please protect yourself. Quest for inner peace led Lonnie to a cruel. Belief in a diet of nothing but air cost a mother of 9 her life. The Australian, November 20th, 1999. This was around the time where Jasmuheen's 21-day process was really famous. No one will ever know the suffering Lonnie Morris must have endured as she lay alone in a caravan, paralyzed down her right side, delirious and coughing black liquid. Certainly not Jim or Eugenia Pesnak. They were convinced Morris, 53, was suffering a spiritual crisis, not a medical one, after going 7 days without food or water as part of a 21-day initiation into the New Age cult of breatharianism. The Pesnaks were yesterday found guilty in the Brisbane Supreme Court of the manslaughter of Morris, a mother of 9. The jury had rejected their defense that they honestly and reasonably believed Morris was not sick until 11 days into the process. Like the Pesnaks, Morris was a deeply spiritual woman. After reading the book Living on Light by Brisbane breatharian guru Jasmuheen, Morris became convinced the initiation process was for her. So it was that she came to be at Brisbane Airport on June 13th last year being greeted by the couple. Both recently initiated breatharians. They drove her to their home in the Bayside suburb of Ormiston. The Pesnaks had supervised about 30 people through the process, although Eugenia Pesnak had protested initially, fearing an accident, but her husband would have his way. They put Morris in a caravan in the yard, isolation was essential, and left her alone. According to the rules set out in a statutory declaration Jim Pesnak had sent to Morris's home in Victoria a month before, she was allowed orange juice after 7 days and nothing else for the next 2 weeks. It also purported to free the Pesnaks of any liability if anything went wrong. 6 days in, Jim Pesnak was in the garden when he heard a thud in the caravan. He found Morris on all fours on the floor after falling out of bed. "Stupid me," she said. According to her diary, she had been dreaming of cakes and tea. She could taste something like bile, but indicated she believed in the process, accusing her mind of betraying her body, noting, breast smaller, wish it was my stomach. Remember the mind games that Ray talked about. See the similarity here. As the three of them toasted their first drink the following Saturday night, they thought the worst was over. But Morris did not respond. She progressively lost the use of her right arm and leg, became incontinent, and stopped talking. The last entry in her diary was a spiral. Jim Pesnak began consulting a doctor, William Moulton, who had been through the process. He consulted a doctor who had been through the process. All right. Dr. Moulton later denied he had been giving Jim Pesnak medical advice, but Pesnak satisfied himself Morris had not had a stroke, and the black liquid she was vomiting was a mixture of all the spiritual and physical pollutants the process was designed to evacuate. As Jim Pesnak's interview with the police demonstrated, he was convinced Morris had a spiritual blockage created by her childish refusal to let go of her emotional burdens. The Pesnaks claimed later traditional medicine would not have understood what was going on, and drugs would have stopped her spiritual journey. As far as the process is concerned, sometimes a doctor's intervention can be fatal, Eugenia Pesnick said without a hint of irony. But Wednesday would force Jim Pesnick's hand. The black substance had begun collecting in pools and Morris began to choke when she spat out a crude tube he had stuck in her mouth to help her breathe. He called the ambulance, but not before he had made a final call to Dr. Moulton's voicemail. "Bill, I'm having problems. Real problems," he said. "Should I call the ambulance and what should I tell them?" Lonnie Morris on July 1st, suffering from pneumonia, severe dehydration, kidney failure, and the effects of a severe stroke. Prosecutor Charlie Clark asked Justice Margaret Wilson to impose a sentence of 6 to 7 years jail for Jim Pesnick and 2 to 3 years jail for his wife, saying they had shown no remorse. The couple will be sentenced Friday. It does not seem like they had any remorse. In these retreats, it's said that after you complete one, you're certified to heal others and bring others through this process. And what worries me is that this doesn't have to be residential now in the age of social media, right? So in theory, there could be a Reddit thread that is just people who have been newly initiated into the process trying to recruit and bring others through the process with no medical support, all the belief in the world that Western medicine and doctors in general are bad and are going to interfere with the process, all the belief in the world that any negative health consequences or symptoms that people experience during the detoxification process are just what the process was designed to deal with in the first place and are just mind games, delusions, temporary. All the belief in the world that what they have been told is true and sustainable. Think about this for a second. If Ray Maor, Jazz Muheen, Wiley Brooks, other breatharian leaders, influencers, and public figures have admitted to eating, and they are still spiritually enlightened according to the levels of breatharianism, why is it necessary to follow a breatharian diet to reach that level of spirituality, to reach that frequency? Since these leaders have been caught eating and are still revered as spiritual gurus and still allegedly, according to their followers and them, have what they call superhuman abilities to heal people, why is it necessary to go through this? Why isn't breath work, meditation, and affirmations enough? Why is it paired with starvation? Why is it paired with getting less sleep? Why is it paired with leaders saying to people that they need to avoid their friends, families, and other social situations that have food in them because it might trigger them? If these spiritual leaders, gurus, breatharian gurus, let's call them, have been through the process themselves, even when they admit to not eating, why can't they use that spiritual power to help people cultivate their spirituality, even if they wanted to, talk to people about their relationship with food, whatever? Why can't they still do that? If the breatharian initiation is supposed to bring you to a certain spiritual level such that you have certain abilities, including abilities to help people, why is it that these leaders need to recruit more people into their retreats? Why? I think that's a good point to end this video. Think about why these leaders, since they admit and everybody accepts that they are still eating, think about why they have a vested interest in maintaining this public image. And with that, thank you so much for coming along with me in this wild ride. Remember that you are valuable, you are perfect just as you are, you deserve all the snacks and all the water in the world, whatever you want to eat and drink, that is your right as a human being. And don't join the CULT, okay? All right. And I will see y'all in my next video where I eat a lot of melted cheese on a plate because that's one of my favorite foods and it's greasy and I'm petty. Okay, bye!